She said it was just Friday drinks with coworkers. But at 2 a.m. I saw their marketing department's Slack channel filled with messages. Last night felt amazing. You look stunning tonight. Stay with me. I remember that Friday evening vividly. How Jessica slipped out after our usual dinner, claiming she needed to join her team at the office to wrap up a presentation. I tucked our baby photo back in my wallet. Our daughter, Emma, smiling in her Sunday best overalls, and believed her. She's always been a devoted Christian, volunteering at our church every Wednesday and singing soprano in the choir on Sunday mornings. I never thought she'd risk her reputation, let alone our marriage. After she left, I couldn't sleep. I drank a cup of coffee, black, like I always do, while scrolling through Slack on my phone. At first, it was just innocuous gifs, a dancing cat from someone in accounting. But then I noticed a channel named Friday Froth. I hesitated before clicking, heart pounding. There was a gif of champagne popping, followed by a private thread between Jessica and a guy I didn't recognize, Ryan Mitchell, a marketing strategist. "You look amazing tonight," he typed around midnight. "Stay with me," came another message an hour later. Confusion and anger flooded me. I double-checked the timestamp, 1:02 a.m. My mind raced. Was she really there? The proof glowed on my screen, mocking me. I grabbed my jacket and keys, still in my pajamas, and drove to her office. Black Friday traffic was surprisingly light. Maybe everyone was home prepping for the weekend. As I parked, I replayed her voice. "I love you, babe. I'll be home late." The parking lot lights hummed above, casting long shadows through the glass doors. My chest tightened when I saw the CCTV feed displayed on the lobby monitor. Jessica's silhouette slipping inside at midnight, alone. I felt sick. At 2:45 a.m., another clip surfaced, her running up the hallway toward the back offices, pale heels clicking against the linoleum. She stopped at Ryan's door, glanced around nervously, then slipped inside. I watched her hand slide to his waist before the footage cut out. My breathing hitched. I sank to the floor, hands shaking. How could she betray us like this? Especially after she led Sunday's sermon about faithfulness? By dawn, I was back home in Arlington, clutching a crumpled receipt I found on the coffee table. A morning latte from Bruin Bible Cafe, stamped 8:15 a.m. She had told me she'd been out late finishing that urgent report, but instead of coming straight home, she'd met Ryan for coffee. The cafe sits a block from her office. I recognized its green awning. My mind replayed her excuse. Traffic was awful, so I grabbed a coffee to wake up. I stared at the receipt in disbelief. How many lies did that cup of coffee represent? How many vows did she shatter? That morning at breakfast, our usual Saturday ritual, she gave me a rehearsed smile. "I had to stay late because of that Big Johnson account," she said. I forced a nod, but I already knew. I watched her finger trace the rim of her mug as she spoke about church potluck sign-ups and how Father Martin asked her to hymn lead next Sunday. All of it sounded hollow. The moment she left for work, I snuck into her home office and downloaded every Slack conversation, grabbed the CCTV logs, and tracked the coffee receipt on the cafe's security tapes. I needed proof beyond a screenshot. And I got it. Video of them kissing in the break room at 8:30 a.m. The betrayal burned deeper than I'd ever imagined. Now, as I sit here typing on my laptop, a faint hymnal chord drifts from the living room, Jessica rehearsing for tomorrow. I keep telling myself to breathe. I keep telling myself God can forgive, but my heart feels heavy, threatened by doubt. I saved a draft message in my phone to Ryan. "Stay away from my wife." But I haven't sent it yet. Part of me wants closure. Another part trembles, afraid of the chaos that would follow. Sunday will arrive soon. A day she'll stand before the congregation, preaching loyalty and trust. How can I face our friends, our pastor, knowing the truth? I don't know if I can. All I know is that nothing will ever feel the same again, and I can't pretend otherwise. I couldn't bring myself to go to our bedroom that Saturday night. Instead, I crashed on the living room couch, wrapped in Emma's soft blanket, as if her warmth could somehow protect me from the ache. The hymnal book sat abandoned on the coffee table, pages marked where Jessica would practice vocals. Her voice, which used to comfort me on the loneliest days, now felt like shards of glass cutting through my memories. I stared at the flickering TV screen until the first rays of Sunday morning crept through the blinds. The familiar church bells chimed at 7:30 a.m., calling me to a routine I no longer believed in. Outside, the sky was pale and cool, spring in Northern Virginia, where dogwood trees were just beginning to bloom. I remembered how last Easter Jessica and I had lit candles together, whispering prayers while Emma toddled around in her Sunday best. Back then, our faith felt unstoppable, a shared cornerstone. Now, I wasn't sure what I believed. Sitting there, I scrolled through our wedding photos on my phone. Her radiant smile as she walked down the aisle in ivory lace, me wiping tears as she reached the altar. I promised to love and cherish you, forsaking all others, she had vowed. I'd repeated those words and meant every syllable. She stood beside me that day, tears in her eyes, just as I did. How swiftly truth can warp into betrayal. By 8:45 a.m., I found myself dressing in a crisp blue shirt and khakis, church attire as automatic as breathing. I told myself I'd go to confession, maybe speak with Father Martin before service. Part of me wanted to confess my own anger and despair. Another part needed guidance. Did forgiveness require me to stay, to keep building something that now felt fractured beyond repair? I glanced at the rearview mirror as I backed out of our driveway, catching my reflection. Bloodshot eyes, stubble on my cheeks, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. The sanctuary filled quickly. Familiar faces, tidy Sunday hats, pastel dresses, churchgoers greeting one another seemed suspended in a peaceful bubble that excluded my turmoil. I slipped into a pew near the back, heart thundering as the organist began a soft prelude. At the front, Jessica stood at the microphone, her posture poised, blue choir robe draping elegantly over her frame. She hadn't spotted me yet. The choir rose, singing Amazing Grace, and her soprano soared, a bittersweet sound that rattled something deep inside. I closed my eyes, fingers gripping the pew as if bracing for impact. After the opening hymn, Father Martin invited the congregation to share joys and concerns. I watched Jessica's eyes scan the room. She raised her hand to offer a prayer request, her voice steady. Please pray for my husband David, who's facing some difficult decisions. May God grant us discernment and peace. The congregation murmured, Amen, heads bowed. I felt a shard of irony pierce me. Pray for me? Pray for his peace? If only they knew the depth of deception. I clenched my jaw, tears stinging. She hadn't mentioned Ryan's name, just me, like I was the one struggling alone. When the service ended, people filed out for coffee hour. I lingered, mind racing. Part of me wanted to confront her publicly, to shatter this facade in front of our church family. But instead, I walked down the aisle, past the altar, and up the narrow staircase to the choir loft. The rehearsal room smelled of polished wood and old hymnals. She stood there flipping through a music sheet, unaware of my presence until I cleared my throat. She paused, eyes widening as she recognized me. I studied her face, the same high cheekbones, soft curls, gentle eyes, but now I saw the fatigue lined in her forehead, the silent guilt in her smile. I didn't think you'd come, she whispered, voice trembling. I couldn't stay away, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. You asked for prayer for me, but you're the one who needs it, Jess. She clutched her music folder to her chest. David, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. It just happened. Don't say that, I said, stepping closer. You risked everything we built together. You risked our daughter's life, our family, your faith community. My words tumbled out in a rush. How could you stand up there and pretend none of this is real? She swallowed hard and I saw her lips quiver. I know it looks bad, but I never wanted to hurt you. Ryan, it was a mistake, a terrible, sinful mistake, and I ended it. I ended it as soon as I realized what I was doing. I swear, David, I came to repent, to try and make things right. I shook my head, anger and heartbreak warring inside me. So you think by standing at the pulpit, singing praises, I'm supposed to believe you're repentant? I gestured at the empty pews below. All those faces believe in you. They trust you. You can't just preach about forgiveness and then go behind my back. I know, she said, tears brimming, but I need help. I want to go to counseling, to rebuild what I broke. Please. Let's try counseling. Pastor Susan at Grace Fellowship knows a Christian marriage counselor who can help us navigate this. I looked away, hating the way my heart still fluttered at her plea. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, I admitted, voice breaking. Every time I close my eyes, I see those Slack messages, that camera footage, the coffee receipt. It's like shards of glass in my mind. She took a tentative step closer, eyelids wet. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to let me prove I'm worthy of your trust again. Emma needs both of us, David. I know I've failed you in the worst way, but I still love you. I still love our family. Silence hung between us. Her words echoed in my chest. Love? Family. My gaze dropped to the sheet music in her trembling hands, verses about grace, redemption, second chances. 2 weeks ago, these words would have soothed me. Now they felt hollow, tinged with the sting of betrayal. I need time, I whispered, stepping back toward the stairs. I'll think about counseling. But I can't even stand to look at you right now. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. I understand. I'll be here. I descended the steps slowly, each one heavy, like I was walking through water. As I reached the bottom and exited into the morning light, the church bells tolled again, 1 p.m. this time for a special start of spring service. But my mind wasn't on any service. It was on the shattered pieces of my life. Emma would nap soon. I'd have to decide how to break the news to my mom. She volunteers at the same church and adores Jessica's choir solos. Would she be heartbroken too? I breathed in the faint scent of lilies blooming outside Grace Fellowship, wondering if faith could ever mend what deceit had torn apart. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. Heard about what happened. I'm here when you want to talk. I stared at her name, Megan, and felt a flicker of gratitude. At least I wasn't alone in this. I stepped onto the sidewalk, resolving to pick Emma up from Sunday school later. As I drove away, I glanced back at the steeple, its cross silhouette sharp against the blue sky. In that cross, I once saw promise. Now I saw a question mark. What path should I follow? Toward anger, toward leaving, toward forgiveness? Emma's laughter in the back seat broke my reverie. She's only 5 and adores her mom. Whatever I choose, I promised myself it would be about her too. Maybe one day we'd all sit down for coffee, no lies, no secrets. But for now, there were only questions and the ache of a faith I wasn't sure I still held. I spent the afternoon driving without a destination, windows down, letting the warm spring breeze carry away the heaviness in my chest. Emma sputtered out a few sleepy whimpers from her car seat as I finally turned onto the highway toward my parents' house. My mom, Linda, always keeps a pot of soup simmering on Sundays, a comfort I needed more than ever. When I pulled into their driveway, the familiar maple tree in full leaf looked almost mocking in its serenity. I carried Emma inside, her curls soft against my shoulder, and found my mom humming in the kitchen. "Hey, pumpkin," she said, reaching to take Emma. I watched as my daughter's face lit up, completely oblivious to the storm in my eyes. My mom wrapped me in a hug so tight I could feel her heartbeat. I wanted to scream or break down, but instead I swallowed hard and told her, "Something's happened. I need your advice." She guided me to the kitchen table where a bowl of chicken noodle soup and pieces of crusty bread waited. The aroma was home in a way nothing else had been all day. As Emma played with her grandmother's china tea set on the floor, I told my mom everything. The Slack messages, the CCTV footage, the coffee receipt, the parting words with Jessica in the choir loft. My voice caught when I spoke of Ryan Mitchell, the man who'd become a living symbol of betrayal. Through it all, my mom listened, her face unreadable. When I finished, she reached across the table and held my hand. "David," she said softly, "I'm so sorry. You deserve truth and you deserve healing. What do you want to do now?" I stared at the scarred wooden table, our wedding placemats still tucked in the drawers, reminders of simpler times. "I don't know," I whispered. "I feel disoriented, like I'm watching myself from outside my body. I want to trust her again, but every time I close my eyes, I see her in Ryan's arms. How could I fix that?" Mom nodded, her blue eyes glistening. "Marriage is about commitment and honesty. She broke her vow to you, but if she's truly repentant, there is a path forward through counseling, prayer, and accountability. But you have to protect yourself and Emma first. You need clear boundaries, and you need to listen to your heart." Later, as the afternoon sun slanted through the curtains, I called Pastor Susan's office and made an appointment for Christian marriage counseling. One session with Dr. Karen Patel, known at Grace Fellowship for her work with couples in crisis. The counselor's calendar was full, but she could see us next Friday evening. That felt like both too long and just enough time to brace myself. In the days that followed, I returned to work at the small digital agency where I'm a project manager. My coworkers greeted me with sympathetic nods when they heard something had happened. I avoided this Had Friday froth channel on Slack like the plague, but curiosity gnawed at me, so I logged in one evening after dinner. There, buried under dozens of innocuous marketing posts, were new messages between Jessica and Ryan, time-stamped the week after the church incident. Missing you at home. Can't wait to see you. Last night was unforgettable. I printed out the conversation and hid the pages in my nightstand drawer. Every message felt like a punch to the gut. That night I remembered a verse itched in my mind since childhood. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. I couldn't lean on my understanding. My understanding told me to leave her, to cut all ties. But a deeper whisper urged patience, mercy. I prayed in the dark, tangled sheets. God, guide me. Give me wisdom to decide whether to forgive or to let go. I felt no immediate answer. Only silence, like the universe held its breath. Saturday came, and I drove to the local park where I used to take morning runs with Jessica. The jogging trail wound around a small lake dotted with geese, the muddy banks turning green with new grass. I jogged a slow 3 miles, replaying memories, laughing at our first date when she spilled coffee on her white blouse, watching Emma take her first steps in the grass. By the time I slowed to a walk, sweat cooling on my forehead, I felt the tension in my shoulders loosen, if only slightly. That afternoon, I met up with Megan, my sister, at a coffee shop downtown. We sat at a corner table, espresso steam swirling between us. She reached out, squeezing my hand. "Do you want me to confront her?" she asked, eyes fierce. "I can call Jessica, ask what's going on." I sighed, stirring my latte. "Not yet. I need to hear her say she's ended it completely. Then I'll decide if I'm willing to try counseling with her. Right now, I need her to come clean. No more lies." Megan nodded. "I get it, but she needs to know you're serious. You can't stay in limbo forever." I glanced at the door, half expecting Jessica to walk in and apologize. She didn't. Instead, I felt the weight of every decision waiting ahead. Counseling session, facing Rachel, deciding if trust could be rebuilt, or if this marriage was irreparably fractured. Emma would be only 5 once more. She deserved parents who could resolve conflict, whether together or apart. Sunday morning came with a dull ache, but also a glimpse of resolve. I took Emma to church. She chirped her favorite praises, completely and heartily devoted, calling out, "Jesus loves me," at every turn. I watched her and felt a fierce protective instinct. I had to uncover the truth, yes, but I also had to shield her from the wreckage. If counseling worked, maybe we could heal. If not, I'd need to carry her through the aftermath. When I saw Jessica slip into the pew ahead of me, looking tired but determined, I squared my shoulders. No sermons today, this was the real test. I sat down, heart pounding, as the congregation sang. Beneath the hymns lay a question that echoed louder than the organ. Could love, my love, her love, be enough to outlast betrayal? I opened my hymn book, pressed my damp palms to the pages, and let the music carry me forward, into the unknown. The morning of our first counseling session arrived with a nervous knot in my stomach. I loaded Emma into her car seat. She already knew we were going somewhere special. Her little pink backpack swinging against her legs as she chattered about picture day at preschool. Jessica hovered by the front door, dressed in a simple navy blouse and slacks, hair pulled back low. She looked pale, like she hadn't slept. I caught her gaze briefly. We shared no words, just a flicker of uncertainty. Dr. Patel's office smelled of lavender and vanilla, intended to calm, I suppose. The waiting area was quiet, soft light filtering through gauzy curtains. Emma clung to my hand as we stepped in. The counselor greeted us with a gentle smile. She asked if we'd like coffee or herbal tea. Jessica chose chamomile. I shook my head, thumbs fiddling with my wedding ring. I felt like that ring was suddenly foreign, a loop of metal that reminded me how far trust could stretch before snapping. Once seated, Dr. Patel invited us to speak honestly. Jessica's voice trembled when she began. "I'm sorry, David. I lied and hurt you. I never should have let things go so far with Ryan." I watched her cheeks flush, saw the shame in her bowed head. She explained that the attraction had started months earlier, Late nights collaborating on campaigns, a shared joke that turned into lingering glances. It felt wrong from the start, she said, voice cracking, but I couldn't stop. I told myself it was just excitement, something missing in our marriage. I know now that was a lie. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She clutched my hand for a moment, but I pulled away, folding my arms across my chest. Dr. Patel nodded, encouraging me to share my hurt. Words tasted bitter in my throat as I confessed how the Slack messages, the coffee receipts, the CCTV footage replayed in my mind every night. I keep asking myself, was any of it real? Does she even love me anymore? Jessica sank lower in her chair, but I couldn't soften. I needed her to see my pain, to know the depth of my doubt. After an hour, Dr. Patel asked us to look at each other. Really look. She handed us 2 sheets of paper. One with guided questions about what we valued in our marriage, another with affirmations we once used to speak. Tentatively, I read aloud how I once admired her unwavering faith and kindness. She listened, blinking back tears. Then she read my affirmations. How she used to tell me I was her rock, her partner, her best friend. Hearing those words in this context felt like holding a photograph of a happy memory in one hand while blood pooled beneath it. Dr. Patel encouraged a pause, then asked Jessica if there were any other betrayals I didn't know about. My chest tightened. Did I want to open that door? Jessica hesitated, eyes red. I met Ryan at a cafe again 2 weeks ago, she admitted, voice barely audible. We kissed. I thought it was over, but I lied. I was scared to tell you. My lungs contracted. Every breath hurt. I felt like the counselor's office walls closed in. Jessica's gaze met mine, pain and guilt in her eyes, but I recognized part of it, fear of losing everything. I rose, voice shaking. I can't do this right now. I scooped Emma into my arms and carried her out, not looking back. The drive home was silent, except for her soft coos. When we pulled into the driveway, I set her down and went inside alone. My legs gave out when I sat on our couch, the house feeling cavernous without her presence. I stared at the carpet, thinking how many times I'd imagined saying, "We'll get through this," and now the words felt impossible. Jessica reached for me later that evening, tears streaming as she explained that she'd broken off everything with Ryan, deleted his number, changed her work schedule to avoid late nights at the office. "I want our family more than anything," she whispered. I listened, but my heart felt numb. I told her counseling would have to wait. First, she needed to prove she could be honest for weeks. No secrets, no half-truths. In the days that followed, I watched her rebuild trust in small ways. Answering my calls immediately, sending me her location when she stopped at the grocery store, pausing 3 times before checking a text. My pride cringed at the need for such scrutiny, but each time I glanced at her phone open on the kitchen counter, I felt a tiny flicker of relief. We told Emma her mom needed extra truth time before coming home for dinner, and she drew pictures of hearts and crayons all over our fridge, a child's innocent hopefulness. 2 months later, we returned to Dr. Patel. The sessions were hard. I raged, she wept. Then we found moments of understanding. I realized that anger was easier than grief, that betrayal was a wound that needed time to scar. Jessica learned how to talk through cravings to text Ryan's old number, and I learned how to voice my pain without retreating into silence. I kept attendance records in my mind like a ledger. Days without lies, nights when her phone stayed silent, mornings when her eyes held only me. One Sunday, 6 months after the betrayal, I watched Jessica lead the choir, singing Amazing Grace with a voice richer and more vulnerable than before. I sat beside her in the front pew, arms around Emma, and felt a fragile peace. After service, she squeezed my hand as we walked to the car. "Thank you for staying," she said, voice low. I hesitated, then nodded. "I wanted to know if we could still be a family," I said. She smiled through tears, and I saw her old warmth returning. At home, Emma raced ahead, squealing as she ran into our living room. I lifted Jessica off her feet and spun her around, careful not to let her drop. We laughed, and it felt real again. I didn't know if our faith was fully restored, but the foundation, our daughter's laughter, those honest conversations, was enough for now. Forgiveness wouldn't come overnight, but in that moment, holding them both, I believed we could learn to trust again.